All right, y'all. So today I'm going to show you how to make the laptop sleeve from start to finish. And as we go, I'll show you like the little changes that I make, and I'll explain as much as I can in detail. And if you have any more questions, just let me know. So far, we've already cut out our templates, and then we've done the measurement worksheet to figure out like the dimensions of what your laptop sleeve is going to be. And so aside from that, I'm going to put this aside because we don't need this right now. We're going to work on the actual applique for right now. So I have a QR code for the templates if you don't know where they are, but they're on my website and it's free. So you can have either version 1 or version 2. You don't need both unless you want to do both, but I'm only doing version 1. And so from there, sorry, normally you don't see me with headphones, and it's because I'm watching a crime episode on YouTube. So that's why I have my headphones on, so it doesn't like overwhelm the video. But aside from that, we're gonna need, this is double-sided adhesive from Amazon, and I'll post a QR code for this. And so what this is, it has adhesive, so the outside is kind of like freezer paper, and in the inside it's lined with adhesive. And so what you do is you would cut this out to whatever size you need. You'd iron it on you literally could just do like one pass and it pretty much adheres to the fabric. And then from there you would peel the freezer paper off, and then from there you would iron it to whatever it's going to go. But you have to make sure like it's for sure where you want it, because there's no taking it off after that. And so it makes doing applique a ton like easier. That didn't even make sense, but it makes it way easier to do the applique, especially because when you start sewing, it's not shifting on you because it's already adhered to the thing. So you could just do this part, adhere it to your laptop case, and then be done with it. For right now, I'm just going to work on the applique part. And so we're going to go through some fabrics, and we're going to pick out like what we want for each section. And so my plan is to take like each one and pretty much cut out like a basic shape around it. We're not going to do like the actual outline, because I think if we adhere it to this first and then trace it and cut it, it'll be a lot easier to manage this, especially because some of them you have to like cut 3 or 4 times. And so that's my plan, is to just cut out like a basic amount of fabric sorry, a basic amount of fabric that we need. And my goodness, I'm like choking on something. Yeah, we're going to cut out a piece of fabric, and then we are going to cut one piece at a time. So yeah, so let's get started. So I think what I want to start with is the can portion of the applique. And so we're going to have our backing chosen. And so I was in between this one and, sorry, I have all these fabrics here. I was in between this one and this one. The only hesitation that I have with this one is that it's a little bit transparent when you look at it. And so what my thought process is that once I put it on top of this foam, it should like clear up a little bit more. I know you can't see it, but it looks a lot better over the foam. So I have faith that this would work either way. And then I have this other one that I used for my Honeybell quilt, and it's another floral, but it's much smaller than this one. And so I'm in between both of them, and I kind of like this one because of the vining, and it kind of like mimics the tomato vines. And so I'm thinking I'm gonna go with this one for my backing. So aside from that, well, next we're going to do the can. So like I was saying, so we're gonna choose the like base color for this can, and I'm using very neutral like colors, and so I didn't want anything too overwhelming. So I think for this I want to use a denim, and so I think this would be cute when I think about this shape on this. I think a denim can would be extremely cute. So we're going to start with this piece and we'll work from there. So that way we add the adhesive and then we layer it, and then from there you can kind of see like what it's going to look like. And so let's cut this one out first. All right, so this is the shape that we're cutting out. And where is my cutter? It's over here. And so we're gonna just cut this out like this. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I am gonna iron this out so that way none of these wrinkles, when I adhere it, it doesn't like adhere with wrinkles. And so I'm gonna try and get as close as I can. So that way I'm not wasting so much like adhesive paper. And so this is what we're gonna work with. And so from there, I'm going to cut out the amount that I need for this. And so because I don't want this to get on my iron, I'm going to scoot it down a little bit, and so that way it's smaller than the piece of fabric that I need. But it's still large enough that I can cover the can. Okay, so that's a good amount. Okay, so we'll check it real quick. So this is what I was talking about. It's slightly smaller than the piece of denim, and then our can is definitely gonna fit on this. And so let's iron this, and then I'll adhere it, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so here you can see this is adhered to that. And if you start peeling the paper, you can see where the glue is on here, but we're not gonna peel it off yet. What we're gonna do is we're gonna actually trace this on here and then cut it out. So let me grab a Sharpie. I had to go all the way downstairs to find a Sharpie. I didn't have one up here. So we're just gonna trace this on here. Yeah. And I guess you could also trace it on the front side. I mean, we'll see how this works. And if it doesn't work very well, we'll do it on the front side. Remember, I'm not an expert in any of this. I'm just showing you how to do it. So it seems to work. It's not like smearing or anything. It dried well enough. So, all right, so from here, we're just gonna cut this piece out. But we're leaving this plastic on it. Okay, so here's our first part. Is our can. Woo! And we'll throw these scraps away. All right, so the next part is gonna be this piece. And so in the picture, I had made it yellow, but it doesn't have to be yellow. We could pick like any color that we want. And so part of me, I really love this one. I love this. And so I'm thinking maybe to do a little piece of this into it. So let me see if I have a scrap piece of that. So I'm not cutting into that piece. Hold on. I got some the other week. All right, so here's what I'm thinking. And you're probably wondering, like, this is still, oh, my hair. You're still wondering, like, that's such a big piece either way, but it's not as big as that one. And so we're gonna cut here. And so we're gonna see how this looks as far as, I think it would be really cute, like the little can. So I think I'm gonna go with this. So same thing, we're gonna cut out a piece of freezer paper, smaller than what we need, or smaller than the fabric. That way we're not wasting too much of it. And then we're gonna test it and make sure that it fits on our piece. I'm gonna trim this little corner. I'm always scared to like slice my finger. So let's test that one out. Yep, and that should fit perfectly on that. So now we're gonna iron it, iron this onto this, and then we'll trace that. That's hot. All right. So I'm gonna trace it on the front side actually this time, because I don't want it to be sideways like on the design. I want it to be straightforward. So I'm just gonna use a pencil on this one. And so I guess if you don't have a Sharpie, you could definitely do it like this if your fabrics are light enough to trace them over this. Okay, so we have this piece now. And so that was that. And now we're going to cut this out before we adhere it to that piece. What I like about this is that as you're cutting it, like nothing's fraying, and I love it. It's like just such a crisp cut. And you want to try and get it as close as you can so it's like in the right spot, but it doesn't have to be perfect, because you can always trim off, like if you had like extra down here or on the side, you can always trim it off. But now what we're going to do is we're going to peel this piece off. Let's see. Here we go. We're going to peel this backing off, and if you can kind of see it in the light, it has the adhesive on it now. And so when we iron that, it's going to just adhere to our next piece. All right, now let's iron this on. And then I have a little piece right there that's showing, so we're just gonna trim that piece off. It's like very, like, it's a very, I don't know if minuscule, well, it's a very little piece. We'll just say it's a little piece. And so you can see that it's not going anywhere. All right, so that's our first piece of the can. And now we have the star to work on. And so I do kind of like the look of this as far as a white star. And remember, you don't want to go too high on this one because you have this piece that goes on the top of it. So you can lay that piece right there just so you have it for reference to center this. And so a good way to center it is like these points in the middle are going to hit that wave. And so we're going to do a lighter color. And so I think what I'm going to do on this one is going to be this one. We don't need this anymore. So we're going to go with this one for the star. Alrighty, so that's that. And I actually think this is a perfect size piece right here. And so we can just Hopefully I didn't cut too far off. Oh, barely perfect. Okay. So, but the only thing is now we're gonna have to make sure that lines up. So we're gonna adhere this to this, and I'll be back. Definitely make sure it's clean on the bottom. I had like a piece of thread right there, so now that thread's there forever. Either way, now we trace our shape onto it. I wonder if this pencil's gonna work on it. It's not terrible. You could use a pencil on this if you wanted to. The only thing is you can't press that hard because then you're going like you're pushing into the adhesive, and so your pencil gets stuck a little bit. All right, we have somewhat of a shape there, and we can cut it nicer as we cut, or we can make it nicer as we cut. All right, so here's our star. Remember, and that's gonna be right there. And so this is what it's looking like so far. It's so cute. And you can see where the string is, and that I was talking about. And we have a dog here. So yeah, so then now we put this on, and that's where our little star is gonna go. Maybe it could go up a little bit. I kind of like it right there. So that's where we're gonna put it. And now we iron it. And that's going nowhere. All right, so our next block, I'm thinking maybe this, because that goes with this. And so, or maybe we do a little pop of color, and we could do the yellow. Yeah, I like the yellow. Let's do yellow for the square in the middle. And I'm gonna cut this one a little bit bigger because I think I want to make it so it's the diamond pattern instead of squares. Well, I guess if I cut it as a square, it'll be a diamond because it's going like that. So, duh, never mind. I thought it was being smart. So let's cut this smaller so we don't waste so much adhesive. All right, so we have that. We're going to iron this on. Alrighty, so we ironed that on, and now we find our square that we want to cut. And so we're gonna cut out right here. Ah, that flew away. And then we cut it out, and we peel the backing off. Hopefully this one's not as difficult. Okay, we have a corner. Ta-da! And now we adhere that part. Yay! That's what it's gonna look like. Okay, so that's what we're working with right now. And so that part is done. And now we are going to do, these are complete, this piece. And so for this piece, I kind of want it to be a shade of blue because I want it to look like the inside of a can, and it's going to give it dimension. So what I'm thinking is if I flip this because it's lighter, it'll give the impression that that's the inside of it, which that's the other side of that piece. And so it works out perfectly. So that's what we're going to do. We'll cut this piece like this. Okay, so we're gonna iron this onto this and then we'll come back. Okay, so that's that part. And now we trace this on here. And I'm gonna go back to the Sharpie because I feel like that was way easier than the pencil. Okay, so that's that piece. And now we cut it out. And definitely when you're doing this, you want to make sure you're putting the right side on the freezer or against the fabric, because worst case scenario, you're going to adhere the adhesive to whatever you're ironing it on. And that would suck so bad. Imagine like you're doing it on your ironing board. Now your ironing board has this patch of adhesive. So be very careful on the, like when you're putting this on, and make sure you're on the correct side. So there's that piece. Ah, come on, get off me. And now we have that. Look how cute that is. Okay, and now we iron that piece on. Okay, and so for the dirt part, maybe this. I like that color. So let's find a bigger piece that we can cut into. So maybe this piece. This would be a good piece. And we do the dirt out of that. And so let's cut the piece of adhesive. Maybe we can get it out of right here so we don't have this weird shape. Ah, come on. Okay. We're gonna adhere this to that. Let's make sure it's gonna fit. Yes, it is. So we're gonna adhere this together. All right. Okay. And now we cut this out. Why is it weird? Alrighty. Now we peel this piece. And this is gonna go right here. Yay! And so that's the dirt. So now we iron that on. Okay, so our can is done. All right, so that's our can. And now we got to choose what we want for our branch and for our leaves. And then we go from there. And so, yeah, let's choose the branch first. So this is what this color is going to be. And so that's what that's going to look like right there. Ta-da! Okay, so with that, I'm thinking this one. We'll move the can aside, but I'm thinking this one, and I feel like it should be enough contrast. Where's the edge of this? Oh, look, I have more scraps inside of it. So let's see what I have. Let's do this lopsided one. Oh, it's 2 pieces. Okay. So we have this. We're going to try and use the least amount. So it'd be about there. And then for this, it'll be, or let's do it with this one because that's wrinkly. So that way we know for sure. I know you're probably wondering, why did you cut it so wonky? But we're going to try and use this up for the smaller pieces. Okay, we'll move that aside for right now. Okay, so that's that. Let's iron this to this. All right, how did I do this? Like this. Remember, you're doing the opposite side. Well, I guess depending on which side you're cutting on, you want to make sure you're doing it the right way. And so let's do this, so that way I can see where to line up the thing. And it should go through the other side. Yeah, okay. So we have that. Okay. Okay. And so as we cut, we can refine and stuff. I think I went off of a little bit on here. So we want to stop right there. So before I forget, I'll just cut that piece first. Okay, so that piece is done. Yay! So that's what our vine's gonna look like. It looks looking so cute. Okay, but we're not gonna do anything here yet because of all the layering that goes on here. So we're just gonna put this aside. Let me grab a chair. All right, and bring my drink too. So the next part we can do are the leaves. So if you haven't noticed, the leaves typically go in this order, like clockwise. So if you wanted to alternate them, just do even and odd numbers, and all the leaves are labeled. So what I'm thinking is I do all my odd ones in one fabric, and all my even ones in a different fabric. So what I'm thinking is these two, because I love these two fabrics. And they're slightly different, but like shades of green, but that's okay. So we can do these two fabrics and we'll go from there. So let's see. Is this one layer? Yeah. So we're gonna just fit them as well as we can. And I'm not worried about the stripes on this because I think the stripes will give it a little bit more, like, make it a little bit more cute, pretty much, I guess. Let's say. And so now we can just cut these pieces off. So let's see if we can fit them on this piece like this. Okay, so we have this now. And now we can just position all of these around. Oh, actually we're supposed to go the opposite way because these are the leaf directions. So or actually let's do this so it doesn't confuse you. I don't want to stain my mat. We'll do this. So we're gonna put this leaf right here and we'll trace it out. Okay. So that's number 5. We'll write it on the back. 5. I'm gonna put it on this so that way I know for sure it's not gonna mark my thing. So 5. Okay, so there's those 4 leaves. So we've finished those and they're all labeled on the back so we don't lose count of which ones they are. So that's one, and then we're gonna do this one. And I want to try and use these pieces. So maybe I just line these up so that way I can, come on, I got sucky scissors. So we line these up so that way I know how much fabric to cut, and then we'll do the same thing where we cut. Alrighty, and then we're just gonna cut all these pieces of fabrics out. So that way we for sure hit the adhesive. This one could definitely fit there. This one, it could fit there. This one right there, and this one on this one. Perfect. It was like it was meant to be. And that one. Yay! Okay, so now we have all of our things. So I'm going to show you what it's going to look like so far. So let's see. and we'll use this as reference. So this is number 1. So this is gonna go like this. Come on, work with me here. So here's 1. Two should be somewhere. Let's flip all these around. 2. 3. 4. It's moving on me too much. 5. Oh, you know what? No wonder it looked weird. I was about to say, I was like, that looks weird because of direction. So that's 4, 5. Come on. 6, 7. Oh, I already messed it up. And 8. Seven, 8. And so now we just gotta. All right, y'all. So far we've done the can and the leaves. And so we have the tomatoes and the flowers left. And then we can start putting together the envelope. I am back. And so now we are going to do the tomatoes and the flowers. And so this part shouldn't take us too long. So I'm actually going to move a lot of this stuff over so I have more space to work with. Oh, that's a bad idea. And we are going to start with the tomatoes. Alrighty. So for the tomatoes, I have this fabric and this fabric picked out, but I think because of how much pattern is going on that side, I'm just gonna do this pattern. And so we are going to measure out how many or how much fabric we need for 3 tomatoes. So 1, 2, 3. So we need about here. And so and then we do the freezer, or not the freezer paper, the double-sided adhesive. And I want to say I got this really cheap on Amazon. So if you want to look into it, like I said, I'll post it in the video with a QR code. But I suggest you buy this because it really is helpful. And if you wanted to skip the entire part of stitching all the way around it, you could totally do it and just leave it as is and make your laptop. All right, so that's ironed on, and now we just draw the tomatoes on. Alrighty, so we have those done. 3 tomatoes. Alrighty, so there's our tomatoes, our leaves. We're gonna move this over here. Maybe you can see it there. So it's all coming together. Now we need to do this, and I think I'm going to use this fabric here. for this one because it's a darker one, and I think this would look beautiful with this, you see. So I'm definitely going to use this one. Alrighty, and we need only 3. So 1, 2, 3. So it's super little amount. Alrighty, so there's that. And while we're at it, I'm going to go ahead and do the flowers. And so I'm going to make the flowers out of this yellow. And so we're gonna cut the amount that we need. So 1, 2, 3. Well, actually, we need to do the adhesive first. What am I doing? I'm jumping ahead. So let's see. It should fit like this. Yep. Okay. All right. And for the center of the flowers, I was actually going to do this red. And so we don't need that much. We just need maybe like a square. Okay. So we're gonna iron all of these together. Before I continue from here, oh, I actually ended up ironing that one backwards from where I was already drawing. Either way, it still works. So now we draw our things on here, which adding it with the adhesive or drawing it on after the adhesive is on there. And if you print this, I would suggest actually printing it on cardstock. Mine's on just normal computer paper, but I do wish I would have just printed it on cardstock because it would have been a little bit more stiffer on the templates. I just didn't want to waste ink because they had already printed once. And it wasn't like the first time I had printed this, obviously. I draw them and then I print them out to make sure they're the right size. And so I typically print stuff like 3 or 4 times before I get to it. So those are a little sloppy, but we'll clean them up as we get to 4. Alrighty, so we have all 4 of these. I'm gonna go, all right, and there we have our flowers. So this is what it's looking like now. So we have our tin can, we have our leaves, which I'm not going to bother trying to put them underneath. I'll put them over because you saw last time how crazy that was for me. Trying to lay them over or layer it. 2. That should be that one and that one. So that's what that looks like right now. Then we have our little tomatoes. And so that one's there. That one's there. Our last one's gonna go here. And then we have our flowers. And so we have one here and another one here. And then we have another one up. Me and the shifting. All right, so we're at our next step. And I don't have my headphones on anymore because I forgot them downstairs. And I didn't feel like going back downstairs. So we are going to, we said we were going to use this one for our backing. And I'm gonna find something else I want to use. Actually, maybe I use this one. Well, hold on. Let me just move this completely. we're using that one as our backing. I would like to use this striped one for the inside of my laptop case. So I think, let's see. No, that's a little off. I don't really like how that looks. So maybe we just go with the bowl. All right, so I don't have another, like, I wish I had a tomato print thing, but I don't have one. So what I think I'm going to do is, let's move that out of the way. I think I'm going to do this on the outside and this on the inside. And I think it's simple enough that I will like it. So we're going to move these around. Let me get my... I like to put stuff that I'm like using currently on my wool mats like this, because then I can lay it out and see exactly what I'm doing and what's first, what's next type thing. And so if you don't have a wool mat, I would say that they are quite useful. So if you don't have one and you've been wanting one, maybe this is your sign to get one. But you don't have to get one. They're not like, you don't have to have one. I like the way they press things, I guess. It's a lot nicer than just using a ironing board. Okay, so we have just about everything laid out. That's 5, 6. And then 1 flower there, 1 flower over here, 2 flowers over there, 1 tomato there, another tomato there, and another tomato there. Okay, so then we're going to move this aside. All right, next. Okay, so the next thing is we're going to take what we had on this measurement guide, and now we're actually going to cut these pieces out. And so everybody's measurements are going to be different, but you're going to cut out what you calculated for step 4, which is D and E. And so we're going to cut 3 of those. So we have the outside lining, we're going to have an inside lining, and then the foam part or batting, whatever you want to use, right? And I guess at this point you would choose like what you want to use for your trim, because that's how we're going to do it. And I'm going to end up using this, so we're going to leave this one out after I cut it to size. And so for me, I kind of want to go, well, I love the stripes, and so we're going to do stripes, which then we end up not wasting, but then I'm only using half of this, but it's okay because I had no other purpose to use this for. So we have, for me, it's 17 by 32. And the good thing if you use stripes is you can like use that as a guide. And so 17 would be 10, 17, and then, okay, so that would be for me about here. So we're going to cut this right here. And I at least know it's going to be somewhat of a straight cut. Remember, we added 4 inches to the sides, or in total from what we needed. And so I need by 32, so I have 24 here. Sorry, I'm getting all close and personal with you. And we're going up to 14, so about 24, 34. And I'll cut it down once I iron it to the size I actually need. But that gives me a guesstimate of where I'm stopping. Alrighty, so we have our inside piece. I need to iron this so it's a lot flatter. And then I'm just going to fold this because I'm going to use it for my trim on the outside. So we're going to keep that on the side. Same thing with our outside piece. We're going to cut that too. Let's see. So we're going to cut this way. Need to fold this. I shifted the table a little bit. Sorry. So we're going to fold this like this for right now because we're using it. I actually like to fold all my fabrics like this when I'm using them because then I can just roll out what I need. Okay. So I'm cutting them a little bit bigger than I need on here because I need to iron them. And I don't want it to be too short and then I didn't cut enough. Okay. So now we're going to cut. I have too many stuff here. We need 17. And so I'm going to omit this part right here. So let's see. 7, 10. We'll go about here. Just to be on the safe side. That always happens there when it comes to that like fold, because it's two mats put together. And so, okay, and then we don't need this one anymore. All right, y'all, so I've ironed out this thing, or the front and the back. I've ironed out our front and our back. I actually ended up changing my mind on what I wanted to use on the inside. I want to use batting instead of this foam. And it's not for any particular reason. I think I just want to save this for another project. And I have this scrap piece that I feel like it's the perfect size for this. So I'm going to use batting instead for my laptop sleeve. I just got to clean it up a little bit. But yeah, so we're going to sandwich this together. And then we'll cut out what we need. And we'll go from there. And so I know this one's a lot longer because I just cut it out to the width of the fabric. So don't come at me saying you didn't cut it to size because I'm still working on my D&E measurements. All right, y'all. And so we're going to use this scrap piece. And hopefully it's not too messy. Turn it and see what we're working with on the other side. I have all this thread on it from other projects that I've been using this for. Alrighty. Don't worry, I'll vacuum later. Okay. So here we go. Okay, so there's that piece. Let me, you know, it's funny, I just ironed this and then I ball it up on the side. So let's cut this piece off real quick so it's not just hanging there. we'll turn it around. And now we'll lay this piece out. The good thing is that one side is like a pattern and the other side is stripes. So this one is the one I'm more worried about being straight than anything, because I'm using this one as my guide. Okay. So there's that piece. And I do see fabric on both sides. And so now we're gonna just cut this off and then cut it to the D&E measurements. Okay, so for me, I needed 17 by 32, so that is what I'm going to cut my material down to, and then we'll go from there. So remember, we're on step 4, we're cutting down to to those dimensions. Okay, so there's that piece. Now I can measure the length that I need. And actually, what I'm gonna do to make sure that I'm not messing this up, I'm gonna clip these. Okay, so that side's clipped. And now we need 32 inches, which for me, 24 plus 6 is 32. So I'm gonna line this up right here. And then I know, well, as long as this one ends at 5, or let's line that one up at 5. That if this line lines up at 5, I know we're pretty straight. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. I guess I should have used this more as my guide, the fabric, because that's what I did last time. So let's do that, which it didn't change very much from what I had it at, so that's good. Remember, this is all extra from what we actually need. Okay, and then now we cut the sides down because we needed 17. And so I know at least one of these sides is straight, which is this one. And so 17 actually ends up being this line right here for me. So now we're gonna cut down that line. And I'm just gonna freehand it. Which line was it? Damn. I lost track. Okay, so it's this one. I'm actually gonna place this ruler so it doesn't bulk up my fabric. I guess I'm using the ruler. I'm not freehanding it. I guess I'm not that cool. Sorry. All right, we put the clips back on. We'll put some around here too, just so it doesn't shift on us. All right, let's see. Okay, and then we just finish clipping this off. Okay. And so I wouldn't say necessarily it's like a very protective, like, could I drop my computer in this? Probably not. If I use the foam, probably. Would I? Probably not. And I don't know how often people are actually dropping their stuff like that to be that worried. But it's definitely not a protective case. It's more just like, it's more, I'd say, just like from scratches and stuff, or just to be cute. And I'm okay with just cute. So it gives me somewhere to store it, and to most likely it's going to go inside a backpack or a purse that is going to protect it. All right. So we not printed. We've cut out our backing, our lining, and our front fabric. So now we're just going to quilt it. So I'm going to just do a straight line on mine. And I'm going to use this as a guide. And I think I'm going to do every other line. So starting in the middle, and then I work my way out. That way I know that it's even. That's how I'm going to do mine. And so I'm not going to show you how to do that because everybody's going to do theirs differently. And if you want to quilt yours differently, then by all means. And so this is my middle line. Okay, so I'm going to get that ready to go, and then I will come back once we start putting it together with the applique. My machine is ready to go to start sewing. I'm doing a green thread on this side and a white thread on this side, and yeah. So like I said, I'm gonna do stripes for my quilted part, and I'm gonna put something on because realistically, this is going to take me a little bit longer than a couple minutes, and so I hate sitting in silence or just listening to the sewing machine. So typically I like to put something on, and we are going to watch Bob's Burgers. There you go. Good as new. Looks a good boy. So that is what I'm watching. All right. Okay, so I just finished quilting it. Before we move on, I do want to show you a few options of like what you could put inside of here as far as whether you put batting or foam or anything like that, especially if you were a beginner and you're just trying to figure out like what to put inside of it. Let me pause this, it's probably loud. So I finished quilting this, and before we move on, I wanted to show you a few options of what you could put inside of it. You can see mine's pretty thin, and it was only because I don't want anything bulky. I wanted something that just my computer can go inside of, so I'm not too worried about it being protective. And so the other option is this, and it's called Flex Foam Naked, and you can see, I'll show you the barcode. I got it from Joann's, but I'm sure that it's probably available on Amazon or something like that. And so that's what I would put inside of if you wanted more of a bumpy look to it, and more protection. And then let me go grab the other thing. So if you wanted it to be like a little extra poofy, kind of like a jacket, then I would put maybe this inside of it, and maybe even just this batting, so like 2 layers of it, and it would give it like a little like a little puff jacket. So This you can find at, I was about to say Joann's. That's where I got it from. You could probably find this at Michael's. Like now that they're like becoming the like go-to, not go-to, but like I guess the most common place around for people. But you can find that there, or you can probably find it at Walmart or Amazon. And so this is just a thin batting, like thin batting. And I'll put QR codes on everything so that way like I'll look it up for you. And if you are a beginner and you don't really know what I'm talking about, then you can just scan the QR code and add it that way. But yeah, that's if you wanted a little bit more cushion to it. So not protective, semi-protective, protective. Don't quote me on it because I don't want a lawsuit or something that you told me it was protective and it wasn't. So we will say cushiony, or not cushiony, mid cushion, lots of cushion. That's what we'll say. So now we are going to take our worksheet again, and now we're going to find the dimensions that you found in step 3. And so mine, remember, this is like 4 inches shorter than what you calculated for 4. So in step 3, mine was 13 by 27 and a half. And so on here, I want to find the center of this and then go from there. And so let's see. So half of 17 is 8 and a half. And so it's about here. And so what I'm going to do now, let me find my marker that I used. So what I'm going to do now is mark where I want everything to lay, pretty much. Not lay. I'm going to mark the outline of my actual laptop case, so that way when I'm doing the applique part, I know I'm pretty much centered on this. And so all right, and so for mine it was 13 inches. So if that was middle, okay, that is exactly 13 inches. Oh my gosh, I have something in my throat. Sorry. Okay. The other side for mine was 27 and a half. And so we're going to measure 27 and a half inches. Let's see. And I'm using my stitches as a guide so that way I know it's pretty straight. So that's 24. 27 and a half would be about here for me. And now the other side, so we know it's for sure. That's 24, 27 and a half right there. And I'm gonna mark this now. About to sneeze, but didn't have to sneeze, I guess. Okay. And from there, we can mark the outline of what we need. Okay, so I have that marked out, and now you can kind of like do like little notches on it if you wanted to, so that way you can see where your front panel, your back panel, and then your flap is going to be. All right, so now that we have that marked out, what we can do is we can mark out these lines right here, this one and this one and this one, and an invisible one. So you already have marked out pretty much the whole like diameter of it, or perimeter. Yeah, perimeter. You've already marked out the whole perimeter of it. So now we can mark this part and this part. And that's going to be to give us a guide of like where our flaps are going to be. And so for mine, it was, for my B, it was 11 inches. And so that's my first one. And 22 would be my next one. And so I should be left with about 5.5, which that's exactly what I'm left with, right? And so 5.5, and instead of marking it, because I don't want to mark it because I don't intend on washing this, like after I make it, I'm going to mark with some pins, and I can kind of just see where that's going to be. And the only one I'm marking for right now is this one, because all my applique is going to go on this one, on that front side. And so here's that. We mark at 11, and so 11 ends up being right here for me. And now we can kind of see where we can't go past. You just got to be careful from then to not like poke yourself while you're doing the applique. Okay. And so now we know that this right here is our front flap, which is the end. So this is the top where your laptop would go like this, pretty much. Oh, hold on. Pretend this is your laptop. Your laptop would slide in like that. And so this is the orientation you want it at. Okay, and so here we have the dimensions of B and A. Okay, and so from there, you can kind of see how it's gonna lay like this. And then it would cut once we cut it down. But for right now, we're gonna just lay the applique stuff on it. Let's bring over our mat and we'll start putting this on. And so here we have the jar first, and I would do a full lay of how you want it to look before ironing anything on, because what you don't want is it's like too far off, and you don't want to come in, I would say about 1/2 inch around, like don't get closer than 1/2 inch to the edge. And so you can kind of see where everything's gonna be, so that way you know that's exactly the spot you want it at. Okay, and so I think that's a good spot. So in between right here, this one, the third one, that's where my first one's gonna go. So I'm gonna move all this away, and we're gonna start by ironing on the can first. So I have the can ironed on now, and next we can do the, I would say I'm going to do the leaves next. The only thing with that is I'm going to have to pin them in place, because I don't want them to shift after I put it and then I can't put this on. And so what I'll do is we'll peel the back off. We'll set it in place. Okay, so we know this one's gonna go there. Let me get my pins. That one's gonna go there. And so what we can do is we'll pin it in place, iron a corner out so it stays right there, and then we'll take the pin out before we iron on, because you don't want the needle to get stuck or the pin to get stuck. So that's that one. So now I'm going to go iron these on, and I would say work like around counterclockwise, especially if you were right-handed, so that way it doesn't, you don't overlap the iron on whatever hasn't been removed, like whatever pins haven't been removed. So I'm gonna work like this, and then I guess if you were left-handed and you were pressing with this hand, you could work this way. So okay, let me go iron this. Okay, so I've ironed on all the leaves, and now we are going to iron on the stem, and I'm going to go ahead and peel it so that way all I have to do is iron it over there. And so I would suggest doing it from the base all the way down, and it would easily peel for you. And from there, we would just line it up with our leaves and then iron it down. And so I'm going to go do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to iron like one piece at a time, so that way it's not getting too crazy. Oh, let me throw these papers away. All right, so we have our stem connected now, and now I would say it's time for the tomatoes. And so you could probably do each tomato and each little top at the same time. So I'm gonna bring it over and I'm just going to put them down. And remember, the little short side is what goes down on, like, towards the bottom of the tomatoes. And so that's where they're gonna lay, right here. And that's where, so that's where mine are, this way. Okay, and so I'm gonna go iron these on now. All right, so the tomatoes are on here. And lastly, we put our flowers down. And so one flower is gonna go about here. Another one, well, two of them will actually go around here. So we're gonna put them here and here. And the last one will go down here. So I think that's the way I'm going to do mine. Yeah, I like that. And so, yeah, so we're gonna iron that on and then I'll come back. Alrighty, and so that is complete. And if you wanted to, you could go over it with your sewing machine, but this is pretty permanent. So, I mean, the tape itself was called permanent, double-sided adhesive. So, double-sided adhesive. And so, I don't think it's going anywhere. And if it was, I could just take an iron and pop it back down. So, I'm going to leave it like that. And I know it's a little busy, but honestly, I don't care. So what we're going to do next is we're going to draw on our flap. And so we're going to go to the other side. And this is our smaller side. And so I should have 5.5 left here, right? So let me mark my 5.5. So 5.5. And so this is what I'm left with for my flap. And so in this case, let's see, let me make sure that's 5.5. It looks a little off, but I'm pretty sure it is 5.5. 5.5, 5.5. Okay. So as of right there, that's my 5.5. Then I'm going to find the center here at the top. So for mine, it's 6.5. And all I'm going to do is bring those points together. So we have this point, and we have this one. Okay. And so if you wanted to, you could round this off. And so I think I'm going to round mine off, and I'm just going to eyeball it. And so what we're going to do now is we are going to cut out our shape. So I'm going to cut all this out. Let me move this. And I'm just going to use my scissors for this. So that's what that's going to look like. And then I can kind of see where the pins were before. So I'm going to fold it right there. Is that chocolate? I think that is chocolate. Either way. So we're going to have a little gap at the top, but you can kind of start to see how it's going to look. And so for mine, it covers up a little bit of it, but I don't mind it, honestly. And if you do mind it, then you could cut this down shorter. And so maybe we do cut it shorter, you know, and you can like, because depending on like where your placements are and stuff, you could trim as much as you want on the lid and however deep you want to go. So I think for mine, I'm going to trim it down to at least, I'd say about here. Maybe that's a good spot. And so quite a bit. And so let's see. And so not everybody's is going to look the same, you know, but hopefully I'm going to try and add like a section at the bottom of my, on the bottom of my website where you can like post pictures of what yours look like and what it came out to be. And so mine ended up being now like a little bit more round than what it was initially. And I'm okay with that. And so you can see like you fold it. And yeah, I definitely like that size better. And so that's where I'm going to place mine. Okay. And so what's next is I need to iron out some binding so that way we can bind the edges. Okay, so we are going to start by adding it only on the top. And so you could measure it out and just cut it down to the size, but it's only going to be that first spot right here, the top. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay. All right. So I don't know how much you saw of the sewing, but my phone died. So yeah, but the top part is attached. So this is what it's looking like. And you have a few options on like what you want to be, how you want to be able to close it. So you could do like a little strap where you can do like a strap on this side or strap on this side and then do like a bow. Or you could do a button. So if you have a button foot or if you know how to do a little button hole, typically you would like shorten the length or you would shorten the zigzag and then you could like pretty much make a buttonhole on your own. But in my case, I'm going to use a snap because I have so many snaps and I love a snap. And so that's what I'm going to use on mine. And I think that's easier to do. And so if you have a few varieties of what you can do on here, but I'm going to show you how to finish this off. So we've done the top part and now we're going to do, what we're going to do is we're going to pretty much finish this by sewing the sides together. And so I suggest you sew them before you start adding the bias, just so it doesn't shift on you while you're trying to put the bias on there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew these together. Okay, so that's one side. And now we will sew the other side together. And so flip it so that way I can Okay, so my sides are sewn. You can see there, and you can test your thing to make sure that it fit. I mean, at this point, you better hope it fits because, I mean, you're at the end. And so mine is perfect size for it. And so now we just trim the edges. And so I have another piece of binding that I made, and that is right here. Well, is this my long one? Yeah, it is my long one. Okay. And it should fit all the way around. And so I'm going to sew this on, starting on one end, and then you start sewing on one end, and then you just go all the way around and finish it. And then we'll add the snap and we'll be done. And so let me start sewing this on. Alrighty, so then that is all sewn together. And so that's what it looks like so far. And then from there, we're gonna add our little button. And so, or our little snap. And so I'll show you how I do that if you are interested. And I'll also link that part if that's what you want to buy. And I'm not affiliated with any of these. It's what I bought. So I'm just sharing it with you. I need some my more precise ones. And for my snaps, I'm gonna use, well, I thought about these, but I feel like that one is gonna be a little bit too harsh on my computer. So maybe we do these like baby ones. And so it comes with this set over here. And let's see if there's any that would match this. I think the closest one that I'd be like, well, actually, these are super cute too. These are like a light green. Or do we do dark? I think the light ones. And so we'll do these two. And I'm going to do a set of two. And so it's that one. And so that's one side. And there's the other side. Okay. Alrighty. So with this, I bought this set on Amazon as well, and so it came with all this in here. And so, no, we don't need that. So on here, we're gonna just poke where we need the buttons at. And so I'm thinking maybe I do it on the stitches so it guides me well. And so I'm thinking right here. So one of them is gonna go here. And the other one was right here. And so then we put this side on it. I feel like these are just more gentle than the other ones when it comes to like, if I had to like push against my computer, you know, to close it. And this one, okay. So there's those two. Ideally, this one would go on the bottom, and the other one would go on the top. Yep. And so now we just got to find the other side. And so if that's going right there, that means the other one's going to be right here. Ugh, I didn't get the hole. Let's see. That one's right there. So that means that one's right there. It was right here. Okay. So then we have this in the bottom, and then these for the top. And from there, we use this to close it. And I don't remember what side's what. wish I had kept the menu for this, or the thing, but I'm pretty sure, yep, that goes with that. Come on, separate. Okay, worst case scenario is we take it off and we do it again. And so I'm pretty sure this is how it went. That I just put this in there. This would end up lining up. Yep, that's exactly how it went. Okay. Good thing it worked. All right, so those are those two. And now we put the tops on. All right, and so that's that, and that's it. And so we've put the snaps on there. We put all this back. And it's as easy as that to finish it. And so, wow, moved the table on accident. Let's put that back. I do like to clean as I go, because if not, then typically I end up with a ton of a mess, or like a big mess that does not want me, that I do not want to deal with. So, and let me bring over my somewhat of a laptop, which is technically my iPad. And that is what it's going to look like. All right, y'all, and so that's it. We have our laptop sleeve with our tin of tomatoes, and that was our project for this week. So I think we definitely hit our goal as far as just making something and making something cute, because if this is for when you're stuck, right? So I think this was an easy project. I would say if I had to estimate it, it probably took maybe 3 to 4 hours on the long end, like long side of it. But you have to remember, like, I also have to move my camera around and stuff. And so that always adds on like way more time. And then especially like a few times I wasn't recording, and so then I had to redo things. And so I would say it took me about 4 hours total to make this. If you were going to like stitch on top of them, that would obviously add more time. And then if you were going to do a buttonhole, that would add a little bit more time as well. But overall, I think it was a good little weekend project, I would say. And so that's what we have. And so, yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And like I said, I'm going to add a little review thing, maybe like a comment section at the bottom of the page, because I would love to see what you guys do. And so just update me. And so, yeah, till the next one.